Hello, everybody. It's me, Artie Aries, and if you can tell, I am an Aries who does art. And today, I would like to introduce a new segment I am integrating into the channel, which is where I talk about different stories that revolve around different parts of my life, whether that be my childhood, my school life, my adult life. Even though I've only started adulthood, I'm 21, but whatever. And I just felt like maybe I should. The reason I'm doing this is so you all get to know me a little bit better. And I'm moving on from commentary. If you haven't watched my previous video, I go into more detail as to why I'm not doing commentary anymore. But long story short, I'm not comfortable with talking about other people's lives anymore and stories like that. And I feel like I would be much more comfortable talking about my own self, where it can just be natural. I can be myself finally and not hide behind that persona I created. So, this is a new segment. I haven't thought up of a name for it yet. Maybe I will do down the line, but who knows. So today I wanted to share with you a story, something that I had to experience for many years. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people probably went through in their lives or are going through right now. And I feel like I should share my story. And what I'm going to talk about, it's not really, well, it's kind of upsetting, but I'm at peace with it now, where I can openly talk about it without getting upset. So, before I ramble on, I'm just going to get to it. Today, I'm going to be talking about my many years of being in a controlling and toxic friendship. And when people think of controlling and toxic relationships, they usually think of people who are couples that are in intimate relationships and like abusive. But it's not necessarily just with couples and people who are intimate. It can be with family, it can be with friends. And that's really what I want to do, why I wanted to share my story. I don't have like a script or everything written down. I'm just gonna go off the cuff, but I do know exactly all the points I want to talk about. So, first things first, I am not going to be using actual names because although our friendship ended on a very poor note, I'm still going to respect this person's privacy because, that's just the type of person I am. So, with that being said, throughout the story, I'm going to refer to them as S. As I said, I am protecting this person's privacy. I don't want to feel like I'm violating that, even though we don't talk anymore. But, they're going to be referred to as S, and because their mother plays a part of the story, a huge part of the story, I'm going to refer to her as L. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Anyone else that involved in the story, I'm going to be using a different name, not the actual names. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to get started on the story. So let's begin. So the story begins in, I would say, when I was in primary school, which was 2007, 2008, 2009 time, around that time. The beginnings of it are a little blurry. I don't really remember that. I can't really remember dates that far. But I remember we were walking home from school one day and my mother had a friend that she wanted to introduce us to. This person is L. And I believe that her and my mother met when we first moved from our original place to where we are currently living now. And, me and my siblings obviously knew of this woman, but we hadn't met her in person. And we didn't know that she had children. So when we were all introduced, I was surprised that L had children, roughly around the same age as us. Like, at the time, my mother had 4 children. L also had 4 children. And it was a coincidence that all their ages, like, matched with each other. So we got introduced to Elle, and she introduced her children, and that's when I met S. And my first impression of S was, she's bright, she's bubbly, she's very confident. The complete opposite to me, because, more of an introverted person. I don't speak a whole lot. I'm not very outspoken. Even despite what people may think because I do commentary, but that's in my own space. But when I was younger, I was very like quiet, and I would not talk, especially when I met new people. I would never speak. I would only speak when spoken to, and that's probably why I found it difficult to make friends, because I found it hard to communicate. So, they were nice people. Elle was nice, her children were nice. And because, we were in the same age range, like me and S were literally the same age, we were just a month apart. And, we introduced, and then we talked. I talked a little bit. S was talking way much more than me. So, we talked for like maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we went about our business. And we lived on the same street, and literally we lived 5 minutes away from each other. So they were quite close by, which was good. And I remember all the time that Elle would throw parties for herself and for her children, and we would always be invited. So I remember the first time we went to one of Elle's house parties, and I'm not really a party person. Like, it's not really for me. Like, I don't like places where it's got really loud music and loud people, because it just drains the energy out of me, and I just feel so uncomfortable. So I was like, you know what, I'm unsure of wanting to go, but my mum was like, you have to go, it'll be impolite if you don't. And I was like, okay, I'll go. So we went. I can't remember whose party it was. I think it was S's little sister. I think. But so we went, and, they were quite welcoming. The house was small, but it was nice. So we were at this party. All the little kids got along and were playing with each other. And I was just sitting down, eating food and drinking drinks, because, as I stated before, I'm not a party person. Really and truly, I really didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go back home. And I remember sitting there watching everybody just talk, conversate, laugh, having fun and dancing. And Ez came over to me, and she's like, why aren't you joining in? Why are you here by yourself? Why are you being so quiet? And I was like, well, this is just the type of person I am. Like, I'm not really a party person. I just came because it would be impolite for me not to come, since, your mother invited us. And, I was surprised that she actually sat and wanted to talk to me, considering that she's like a party animal. She still is. She's way more confident than me, and I would never thought that I would have got along with someone like that in my life. And we did, and I was surprised. Like, she was very warm, open, welcoming. She didn't judge me, which, beforehand all the outspoken people would be very judgmental of me because I was so quiet. And I was surprised, as I said, that a confident person like her would want to even be friends with me. So, we talked, and we cracked a few jokes, and we laughed. And as the conversation went on, I felt more comfortable with S. And we, were beginning to form a friendship, which was nice because our mothers were close. So why wouldn't we be close too? So we made friends. She talked to me, and she introduced me to the rest of her family members who were also there. And, I'll be honest, at the time, I couldn't really gel with them like I did with S, because although I could put up with S being so confident and lively, they were like that times 10. And I felt that they thought I was like kind of weird. I was being rude because they weren't interacting, even though it's quite funny how they thought I was rude when they were literally, they kind of bullied me and my siblings, which I didn't find fair. And I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't really like the parties that much, because after that, every time Elle threw a party for herself or her children, they would always be there, and it would always cause drama. Like, they would make fun of me being so quiet and all of that. They would try and make fun of my siblings, and it was like I found it unfair that you're related to these people who we're friends with, but yet you're being so nasty and horrible. And, I'll be honest, I didn't really like them at all. One of them was nice and apologized on behalf of the way her friends were acting, which I appreciated. But it was kind of annoying because S and her siblings were completely oblivious to how they were treating us. But it was what it was. Like, I'm not that type of person who will blame others for how their family members are acting, because everyone's different. Like, it was what it was. But I still liked going to the parties just to see S and her family and her mother and all of that. And, it was nice. And I was glad that I had made a friend, who, could speak up for me, and I could get along with, despite us being completely different. But the only thing that sucked was that we went to completely different schools. So we couldn't really see each other that often unless we got invited to a party or they came round to our house. That was the only thing that sucked about it. But other than that, we remained friends. So I'm going to skip ahead. After we had both, left primary school, I was so happy to find out that me and her were going to the exact same high school. I was like, I was literally jumping for joy, because I'm like, yes, I get to hang out with her more. We don't have to just see each other after school at each other's houses. We can actually interact and get along even more. So there was that. And, we were like so happy. We were both happy and we would always talk about it. So then high school came around, and I remember the first day, usually over here, what they did was they would have all the year sevens come in first, to like look around the school and get used to it, meet their teachers, their tutors, and all of that. And then I think the next day, the rest of the years would come into the school. And I remember walking in, and it was break time, and I was looking around for S so we could hang out and talk, because at that time she was the only person. Well, no, she wasn't. There was another girl that I was friends with from primary school. Unfortunately, me and our friendship faded out, but that's a different story. So S and I were like so happy to see each other. Literally, we ran up to each other and screamed and hugged and laughed, and it was nice. And we talked about how we were finding the school, what did we think, and we both, we liked it, but unfortunately, we were in different houses, and in the school I went to, there was 4 houses. Like, think of it like this is going to be a poor example now considering what's going on, but it was like Harry Potter. Like, there was 4 houses and there were different students in those houses. That's how it was. And she was in a different house to me, so we could only see each other on that day specifically at break and lunch. And I thought that it would be like that all the time. But then we found out that when all the other years came about, we would be in classes. But you get the picture. So the next day, it was when the actual school experience began and classes actually started. And then the rest of the years came in. My tutor introduced me to the rest of the people who will be in my tutor. Because in the tutors, there are different years from year 7 to year 11. And, they were nice. Most of the people I liked in my tutor group. I'll be honest and say I didn't really like the people in my year, except for one person, because she was actually nice to me. And me and her made good friends. I will refer to her as B, because I felt me and her were kind of similar but different. Me and her were we're both female, but we don't adhere to female norms. We were into things that weren't traditionally girly. So we got along on that front. Oh, I forgot to mention that S is a really, really girly girl. And I wasn't like that. And I was surprised that we could get along so well. So, as I said, the school days actually started, and I don't want to get into too much details about it because that will be for another story. But in my high school, the first 3 years, I would say was in it's gonna sound wrong me saying this, but we're in a special group for people with special needs and learning difficulties, and it was a small classroom full of us year 7s. I think there was maybe 10 or 12 of us in that one classroom, but it was nice. I liked it. And I remember the first time I got lost and I went to the wrong class. And I remember walking in and all these other students, the mainstream students, looking at me weird, oh, what is she doing in here? And then I remember one of the teaching assistants saying, "Oh, darling, you shouldn't be in here." So she was kind enough to take me to where I was supposed to go. So she took me to this small classroom with the rest of the students, and S was there, and she was like, "Oh my God, where were you? I was getting so worried." And I was like, "Oh, I got lost and I went into the wrong classroom." And, I appreciated that she was so concerned. So, in this classroom, as I said, there was 12 of us, and it was a group for people with special needs and learning difficulties. And it was nice to be around people who understood the struggle. And the staff, the teachers were actually really nice and supportive. And in that classroom, we would literally have all our classes, well, most of them in there: English, maths, history, geography. I can't remember all the classes. And the classes we have that wasn't in that classroom, we would have in that specific group. And that went on for the first 3 years of our high school. And during that time, I managed to make friends with everyone else in the classroom. But here's when the problems actually sort of started. There were these 2 girls in there, and I will call them, one of them was M, and the other girl, her name started with S as well. So I will refer to them as S and M. No, I shouldn't do that. That would get confusing. I will refer to them as S, H, and M, so it doesn't get confusing. And these 2 girls got along like a house on fire, which, I wasn't judging. It was what it was. And these girls actually went to the same primary school as me. And, we were friends from there. So I was happy and surprised to see that they were there too. And, we talked and we got along. But the problem was, they wasn't very particularly nice to everyone else in there. Especially to S. They literally bullied this girl and went about making her life hell. And it was awkward enough that we had to share a whole classroom together. Like, imagine having to share a class with your bullies. But that's a later story. And it was also awkward for me because I was friends with these two girls, and I was also best friends with S. So I was like caught in between the whole drama. And I remember one time SH and M were trying to stop me from being friends with her and say that, oh, she's annoying, she's stupid, blah, blah, blah. All these horrible things. And I knew I should have spoken up more at the time and said, like, listen, I don't appreciate you picking on my best friend. Like, I get I'm friends with you too as well, but it's not okay for you to bully someone and make their high school experience horrible, because S was actually nice to everybody she met. And she welcomed you two with open arms, and you're picking on her. But I didn't really say anything. I was quite complacent with it because I thought, because they were my friends, that I had to not speak out against them either. But, you know, as I've gotten older, I realised that if your friends are doing something wrong, then you should pull them up on it. So that caused a whole heap of palaver. And I remember one time, S ran out of the classroom crying. And I wanted to go and check on her, but the teacher said, no, leave her be, let her calm down. And I was like, okay. So then when it came around to either break or lunchtime, I went to speak to her and I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, no, she's sick of the bullying, they're being so mean to her. And that she was mad at me because I didn't stick up for her. And I remember feeling so guilty about it. And I literally was like crying and apologising. Because one thing I don't like is when people make me feel guilty for not doing the right thing. And, you know, she was right in that moment because I really should have stuck up for her. And, you know, SH and M, when they weren't there together, they were actually like two completely different people. Wasn't mean. They actually wanted to interact with people and be nice. But when they were together, they were like so mean and nasty. And it was like, I never understood why you must feel to act a certain way in front of your friends. Like, that was what got on my nerves. So, after that, they both left, and S wasn't really getting picked on by them anymore. And it was peaceful. But you'll probably be wondering, okay, so all of this, when does the toxicity start? Well, here's when it starts to get awkward. See, as I stated before, everyone in the class pretty much got along. Now that SH and M were gone, there was really no trouble with anyone. But the problem started because I made friends with two other girls, which, as I mentioned, was B, and the other one was H. And H was friends with S from their primary school, which was nice. She had introduced me to H, and we were all friends, which was cool. But the problem was, I started to get along more with B and H because I could relate to them a lot more. But it wasn't to say that I wasn't getting along with S, because we were still best friends. But the problem was every time we would have to do group work together, B and H would want me to work with them. And S would feel kind of shunned because she's like, well, why didn't you work with me? You should have worked with me. We're best friends. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it's part of the work we have to do. And unfortunately, we have to work with people that we either don't want to, or whatever. And I was like kind of annoyed that she had an issue with the fact that I wanted to work with other people, because it's not like just because I work with someone else doesn't mean I want to be her friend. And I never understood why she took it that way. And I remember one time her and H had a fallout because over me, and I found it ridiculous because I'm like, you two are both my friends and you're having an argument because the both of you wanted to work with me. Like, come on, girls, come on, grow up. It's not that serious. And it was what it was. And I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. I remember being in class once, and I think it was I can't remember what lesson it was, but the teacher had instructed us to work with somebody to help them out. And I remember B was like kind of struggling with what we had to do. So I went ahead and to help her. And I remember S having a complete hissy fit over the fact that I didn't work with her. And I was kind of shunned because I had worked with her many times before. Like literally 2 days before, me and her were paired up together. So I don't understand why she was mad with the fact that I wanted to work with someone different. And, you know, she was saying sly comments to me and about me. And I confronted her about it, and I'm like, listen, you can't be acting like this. Like, I know we're best friends, but you can't be so clingy onto me all the time, because in life, we will have to work with different people. But it was what it was, and then I think we had a huge blow up about it, and literally it made the whole class awkward. But, you know, we made up, and we moved on from that. So I'm going to skip ahead. So S also had a friend that was in her tutor group, and this girl also went to the same primary school as me, so she knew me. And, you know, we were friends, so it was nice for me to be friends with S and me to be friends with this girl. And because she was in the year above us, you know, it was going to get to the point where she would have to leave. And I don't know if I've got my timeline wrong, but this fits into the story. So this girl was in her last year and she was leaving. I remember it was her last day. And S wanted me to come and comfort her and reassure her, because she was like so distraught about this girl leaving. And I would say maybe you can call me selfish for doing this. I didn't really see the big deal about it, because one, they lived on the same street, so they would still see each other anyways. And B, people leave all the time. Like, yes, you can be upset about it, but it's not the end of the world. And I remember I was dealing with another situation at the time, but S wanted me to drop that and come comfort her because this girl was leaving. And I remember she made a huge fuss about it, accused me of not wanting to be there for her, because it was very emotional for her, and she basically said that I didn't care. And I was thinking, so you want all this comfort and me to be there for you, but yet you're pushing me away because I am not taking this as seriously as you. Like, there were many people in my tutor group who was leaving as well, and I was upset because they were leaving, but I'm not making a huge deal about it. But it was what it was. And when this girl had left, that situation, we moved on from the situation. Like, it wasn't even that deep. S apologised for how she was acting, and it was what it was. What else was there? So, you know, we were friends and all of that. But I remember one time that my mum, me and my mum have spoken about it a few times now, and I can't remember what the exact point of it happened. I don't know if it was when I was in year 9, year 8, year 7, but it was one of those years. But I remember coming home from school. Literally, I had a good day at school, which, became very rare as the years went on. And I came in and then I said hello to my mum and my siblings. And she's like, "Oh, go get changed, go take off your uniform. I need to talk to you." And I'm like, okay. So she brings me into her bedroom. She shuts the door. We sit down on the bed. And she's like, "Oh, Elle called me today." And I'm like, "Okay, about what?" And she said that S had told Elle that something had happened at school. And S had told her mother that I wasn't there for her when this certain situation happened. And Elle was cussing me out, so frustrated at me, like, "Oh, you are her best friend, you should have been there sticking up for her. You're letting my daughter go through this and you're her friend, you blah, 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 blah." All of this. Keep in mind, like, Elle is a very headstrong person and she doesn't tolerate anybody messing with her children. And because I'm her friend, she expected me to be there for her, backing her up. But the problem was, when this certain situation happened, I was busy doing something else. Like, I wasn't there at the time. I don't remember if it happened at lunch because as the years went on, our school split the two houses, lunch times. So, my house and another house would have their lunch at a certain time. Then the other two houses would have their lunch afterwards. So me and S wouldn't really see each other at lunchtime. But I think it happened then. But I was like so upset that I was getting accused of doing something that I didn't even do. And when my mum confronted me about it, I was like, "Mum, I literally wasn't there. I don't know what she's talking about." And my mum knew I was genuine because I started crying about it. I was literally so distraught that I was falsely accused by my best friend for not being there for her when I wasn't even there in the first place. And my mum said, "Okay, calm down. I'll tell Elle." So later that evening, she told Elle. And here's what pissed me off about it the most. When Elle confronted her daughter about me saying that I wasn't there, S had the audacity to say that, "Oh, I thought she was there, but now I know that she wasn't." What? So, sis, it's either I was there or I wasn't. Why is it when you're confronted with the truth, you want to change the story? Like, did you take something? Did you drink something? Were you hallucinating that I was there because I wasn't? And the fact that you would go to your mother and accuse me of not being there for you to back you up. And then she's coming at me all aggressive. No, I am not having that. I was so upset. So the next day when I went to school, I didn't care. I confronted S about it. And that was probably the first time I ever confronted her about her behaviour. And she was extremely apologetic about it, which I appreciated at the time. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'm still friends with you. We're still friends. I'm not going to hold a grudge. But here's the thing. That was the first time I felt that she wasn't being a genuine friend. Because if you were a true friend, you wouldn't accuse your friends of doing something they didn't do. And, I didn't hold it against her at the time, but because it was the beginning of a repeating pattern that would go on later. So, back to the timeline. At the end of year 9, we found out that Golden Curriculum, which was what our class was called, was shutting down because the school had lost funding for it, which I find funny because the school could afford everything else, but they couldn't afford funding for the special needs students, which I think is so mean, so disgusting, and so uncaring. But whatever. So they announced that we were going into mainstream, and I was terrified. Everyone else was terrified because we had never been in mainstream, and the fact that none of us wanted to go into mainstream because the mainstream students were like, they always made fun of us because we were in golden curriculum, even though it wasn't our fault that we had special needs, that we were had learning difficulties. Like, and I found it so mean that they treated us like we was the scum of the school, and that now we have to go into mainstream and put up with all of them. No. But unfortunately, is what happened. A lot of the staff that worked in golden curriculum had lost their jobs, so they had to leave too, and we were also upset about it. And during the whole summer, I was so stressed and upset about it, but Ez was like reassuring me, saying it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be there for each other. We're gonna have each other's backs. It's gonna be cool, and I believed her. So September rolls around, and we have first experience in mainstream. And surprisingly, it wasn't too bad. The first few weeks, but it started to get worse because in year 9 we had chosen our options of the classes we wanted to, like maths, English, science. They were mandatory, so we had to do them. But the classes I chose were arts, drama, and catering. And S was in both my drama and catering class. So I had her as a friend, which was nice. But the mainstream students weren't particularly nice to me and her. They thought because we were in golden curriculum, they thought they were bigger and better than us, much more smarter. And they would say like mean, rude comments about us. And I got it bad, but S got it the worst. And it was like so horrible because I don't understand why they felt the need to treat us so horribly. And the teachers heard what they were saying about us, but they didn't even want to do anything about it. So screw them. And I was like, you know what? I know these are saying bad things, but we are still going to have each other's backs. And we did for both the whole of year 10 and year 11, even though year 10 was literally the worst high school experience. And it triggered me so much to the point that the words that people said to me still affect me to this day. But that's another story that I'll talk about. But right now, I'm talking about this. So that's what happened. And I remember this whole tragic situation happened with S and this boy, or I should say he's a man now because we're all adults at this point. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. S was sexually assaulted by this boy, well, man. Because at that point, if you sexually assault someone, you should be charged as an adult. But that's just my opinion. And the whole school found out about it for some odd reason, because those mainstream students love to spell lies and rumours about anybody who they wanted to pick on that day. So this happened, and I had heard what happened when I was in I think catering class. And I remember I was sitting down trying to cook my food whilst these boys were talking about the situation that happened. Keep in mind, these boys are friends with the person who sexually assaulted S. And I heard from them. And I was like shocked, disgusted and surprised to hear it. But they had said, they completely fabricated the story and changed it up to say that S was the one who was asking for it and was willing to do so, even though that wasn't the case. So after hearing that from those boys and the girls, basically the mean girls of the school, I had to go and confront S about it, and I was like, girl, what's going on? Like, I heard that this thing about you. What went on? And she told me, and it was completely different to what everyone else was saying. And I was surprised. And obviously, I believed her because I've known her for years. And obviously, I'm going to back my best friend. And because I backed her up, I started getting picked on as well for some odd reason. Like, I don't understand why it's okay for them to all back Justin. And I'm saying his name because I don't care about keeping his identity quiet because he is the sexual assaulter. But they can all back Justin and have his back and say S is a slut, a whore, a skank, all of this. But when I want to back up my friend, I'm all I'm the devil, essentially. And I didn't appreciate that. And they gave S such a hard time for it. They literally picked on her because she went to the police when Justin committed a literal crime. But yet S is the bad person for going to the police. Like, fuck all those people. I hope karma hits them if they haven't been punished already. So that happened. So I was trying to back S up, keep her safe, make her feel like she mattered and that she was loved. But at the same time, B, who was my other friend, she was getting bullied as well. And she wanted me to back her up as well. So it was really hard for me to back up my friend and B, S at the same time. Because B was in the same tutor group as me. And, you know, I felt because me and her were in the same tutor group, my tutor specifically asked me to, you know, make sure she's okay, always have her back because she needs all the support. And, you know, me being the person I am, I did. But S began to feel like I was putting her over her situation, and I really wasn't. It was like kind of hard to back S up when we didn't even share the same lunchtime together. And, you know, as time went on, I was becoming more and more close to B and H, who I had mentioned before. And S didn't really like the fact that I was getting along with other people. But unfortunately, that's how life is. Like, as it goes on, you meet other people and you start to get along with them more, because I felt like I could talk to B and H about things that S wouldn't really understand. And, you know, we could relate to each other more. And S didn't really like that. And I remember that excuse me, my throat's getting dry. I've been talking so much. And I remember S got so annoyed and mad at me because I wasn't hanging around with her as much, and I was making friends with these two. And I remember saying, listen, it's not my fault that B and H want to be my friend too. Like, can't we all get along and be friends? And S felt like she was acting like I had to pick between her and B and H, and I really didn't appreciate that. So we had like a huge blowout, and we didn't speak to each other for like a day or two because of this argument. And because our mothers got along, we had to make up and be friends again. But here's when like the pattern of like toxic and controlling behavior really truly starts. If she sent me a text message and I didn't answer straight away, she would write long paragraphs saying that, oh, she didn't feel loved, she didn't feel like I valued her as a friend anymore, we aren't as close as we used to, I'm putting other people over her, and basically forcing me and guilt tripping me to always constantly answer her text messages and all of that. Like, every time she had a problem, I had to drop everything to go and help her, all of that. But when I was going through situations, she was never there. She was always like, oh, if you're going for stuff, you can come to me. I'm a phone call away. I'm just a text away. But she never wanted to be there to support me. But yeah, I had to be there for her. And when I was going through like depression and I felt extremely suicidal, and I remember one day I wanted to talk to her about what I was going through. And she was like, oh, you look really upset. What's going on? You can tell me. And I was I was telling her. And then she flipped it and she made it about herself. And I was like, this isn't about you. Like, I always have to sit and hear your issues. But when I want to share mine, you shut me down and you don't want to hear it. Because she was upset over the pettiest little thing. But yeah, that mattered more than me wanting to end my own life, according to her. And she literally said to me, a person who was feeling suicidal, if I ended my own life, then I'm dumb for doing so. Why the fuck would you say that? You are my best friend and you would say something like that? No. And I remember going to the toilet and I was crying and other people were asking me, what's wrong, are you okay? And I ignored them because I really didn't want to talk about it. I just went about my day. But, you know, I didn't like that at all. I really, 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 really didn't like that. But, you know, she was my friend. And I thought that, hey, I can't really hold it against her. And I remember one time, she had sent me one of those other pity party messages because I didn't answer her text straight away, which is dumb. Like, I was busy doing shit, okay? If I don't answer a text straight away, it's not because I want to ignore you. It's because I'm doing stuff and I'm busy, okay? We had exams. I was stressed. But yeah, you know, I'm a bad friend because I didn't answer text straight away. And I told my mum what she was doing and why I was upset about it. And my mum was like, oh, you're dumb for thinking that. Stop being silly. It's not that deep. You know you're not these things she's telling you. All of that. And I remember one time when me and S had an argument. My mum literally said to me, oh, you two need to make up because if you don't make up, then it will jeopardize mine and Elle's relationship. So you mean to tell me I have to put up with S's behaviour just so you and her mother can be buddy-buddy with each other? No, that is unfair. And that's what got on my nerves about the situation the most. That my mother couldn't even take my side because she was scared her relationship with S's mother was going to be jeopardised because if me and S fell out. And I really just hated that. Like, why should I put up with someone's toxic behaviour just for the sake of someone else? But whatever, I complied and I remained friends with S. When we finally left that toxic and disgusting place called high school, and we went to college, we went to the same college, and you know, we stuck together. We were still friends at that point, and it was fine. And then we started to make friends with the other people there. And I would say my college life, even though it had its ups and downs, it was much better than my high school life. I remember I made friends with almost everyone that was there. Well, not the people in our group. And S did as well. But because she was more outgoing and outspoken, they all leaned to her more. Even though they were still friends with me. She like drew their attention. She would put all the attention on her, which I thought was like kind of a bold and selfish mood in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like the fact that she always needed the attention. Every time someone would talk, she would have to jump in and everyone would have to listen to her. And that's what she was like. And, you know, that's what happened. Even though we were all friends with each other and we got along. But I remember one time, and here's what really pissed me the fuck off. And this is when I really realised that, this is a repeat of her continuing behaviour. Like, I remember I was venting to a close friend of mine. Me and him are still close to this day. About what I was going through, because I was going through a lot with my personal life and whatever. I won't get into details in this. That's another story. And they were him and everyone else listening. So then S comes in, joins the conversation, and she makes it about herself. And everybody discards me like I'm a piece of trash, and they all run to comfort her. I was so pissed off because what she was upset about, what she was crying, putting on the waterworks, acting all distraught about, was very minute and petty compared to my situation. I was talking about, like, abuse that was going on in my family life, but yet she's upset because of something that's completely different. And I was pissed off at her. I was pissed off at my friends because they didn't want to hear what I had to say anymore just because this bitch put on the waterworks. Are you fucking kidding me? So I literally stormed off. I didn't even go to maths. I was really pissed off. And I was like sitting in the corner crying. And this teacher, I'll call her Jay, was like asking me, are you okay? Do you want to talk? So she took me to this room and I started crying, and she was like, what's wrong? She was being really kind, caring and considerate, and she was the only one who was willing to listen to me instead of everybody else who I thought were my friends. And when I said that I was upset about the situation that was going on, but I was also upset because S took the attention away from me and put on her. And I thought that as a friend, that was a selfish thing to do, because I would never do that to her. And Jay, she completely understood where I was coming from. And it was so nice and refreshing to hear that somebody could understand where my frustration with my supposed best friend came from. Not even my own mother understood why I was getting so frustrated with the way S was starting to act. So that happened. I didn't even confront S about it. Like, I was so over it at that point. And the next day I was going on like, it didn't matter. I had moved and I didn't care, even though I was still mad. But like during our college life, our relationship started to like sort of fade out because of repeating patterns of her behaviour and her acting like she's the queen bee of the group, which yes, I knew she was confident and I appreciated she was confident, but she was becoming really severely overconfident and attention seeking. Like, she would just want the attention on her, especially male attention. And I found it funny, the fact that after what she had went through, she was, after all of that situation with Justin, she's still craving male attention. And it was getting concerning because she would, almost every month, she would be in a new relationship. And when I tried to confront her about it, like, you know what, you need to slow down. You don't need a relationship to be happy. She was like, but I need a relationship. I need a relationship to be happy. I need a relationship straight away. And I'm like, as a friend, that's concerning, because I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you can't keep getting with all these men, most of them much older than you, just because you want a little love and attention. Like, you don't need love and attention from men in a relationship to be happy. Like, I'm here for you, your family is there for you, the rest of our friends are there for you, but yeah, my concerns fell on deaf ears, and she felt like I was acting jealous of her because I was getting attention. And I remember one time she said, oh, well, maybe if you acted more confident, you would get attention too and you would find a boyfriend. And I was like, why would you even say that? Like, first of all, I wasn't even looking for a man. None of the guys in the college were even my type anyways. So, you know, I'm not like her. I'm just not going to go for anyone or anything. Like, I actually have standards, but that's a different story. But whatever, the fact that she would shut down my concerns when I'm coming to her as a friend. And I was so confused because I'm like, do you want me to be there for you? To have your back? Or do you not want me to interfere? And not be a part of your life at all? And I was like, you know what? Girl, I'm just going to stay out of your personal life. If you want to go and get in a relationship, that's not my business. Whatever. And I remember one time when I was actually talking to someone, and that ended poorly. Another story. She was mad at me because I didn't want to tell her the details, but yet she can keep her stuff private. And I'm like, why must I have to tell you everything about my life? But when I ask about yours, it's like, oh no, don't worry about it. It's my business. And that was like, because it was being so consistent, I'm like, I started to think like, you are not the same person as you was before. You are not the same person. But yet, because I was afraid that if I fell out with her, that it would jeopardize both our mothers' relationship and friendship, that I just put up with that shit. But here's what happened. After our first year of college, I wanted to move on and do a different course, which was like arts, because that was what I was into. And, you know, everyone knew that. So when the next year of college came and I was in my first year of art, and I obviously met new people in there. And these people I thought I could relate to more than S at that point, because at this point she had completely changed. Oh, I forgot to mention, because I had beginning to feel more confident and comfortable in myself, and the fact that I was beginning to become more outspoken, or as people keep saying, I broke out of my shell. She began to accuse me of saying, oh, you've changed, you've moved on from me, you don't want to know me anymore. But that was what she was doing to me, but whatever. And, you know, because I was making new friends and getting along with other people, I was hanging out with them, she felt that I was treating her like she was nothing to me, which was not true, because I would constantly say, hey, you can come hang out with me and my friends. They're cool. They'll get along with you. And, you know, she sat with us a few times and it was nice. We all got along. We all could speak. But that was only rare. But I didn't understand why. It was like, she was so hypocritical, because she could hang out with the people she wanted to and not include me. But when I do the same thing, oh, it's an issue. Oh, I don't want to be her friend anymore. Oh, I think I'm better than her. I'm above her now because I got more friends. Bitch, you do the same thing. You do the exact thing that I'm doing. Be it when I'm doing it, I'm the devil. And I remember I confronted her about it, and then she hated the fact that she was getting confronted, and she put on the waterworks. And, you know, I felt, and I know I shouldn't have felt bad about it, because I was in my every right to feel mad and frustrated. But because she was upset, she was crying and basically guilt tripping me, I apologised and we made up. But as it went on, you know, the years of college, I was in my course and I was making new friends, getting along with new people. Our friendship did fade apart. It really did. And, you know, it was sad because me and her have been friends for many, 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 many years. But yeah, we're falling out because I want to make friends with other people. And, you know, that's unfair. Like, why should I just not make friends with other people and then be lonely and all of that. That's not fair. Like, I remember one time